Hello, my loves. In today's video, we're going to talk about pleasure versus pain and why we as humans tend to prioritize avoiding pain over actually striving for our desires. This topic has come about because it's something that I addressed in my last live stream. I felt like it really needed a separate video to explore it in more depth because it's a mistake I'm seeing a lot of people make. I say mistake, what I really mean is a lot of people are getting caught up in this pattern, and that actually prevents them from living their best life, from becoming who they want to become, from creating the reality they want to create. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we get into it, I just want to welcome you. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new here and you just stumbled upon this video or you got led here some other way, then I want to welcome you to my channel. My name is Lorena. I am a self-concept coach, mentor, or guide, whatever word you want to use. They are all accurate in my case. And I am here to teach you how to become the best, most authentic, most aligned version of yourself, to become your future self now, so that you can create the reality that you desire and experience the reality that you're dreaming of. If that is something that resonates with you, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. And I would also really love it if you left a little like and a comment, and if it feels aligned, even share this video with somebody who you feel like could use it, because doing this really helps this little channel grow and my work to be seen by more people so I can help more people. Now let's begin by taking apart both pleasure and desire and pain, because they're obviously seen very often as opposite things, right? Desire is fulfillment, pleasure is joy, and pain is what we don't want to experience because it's painful, it's not comfortable, it's not nice. But the thing is, they're actually very closely related for multiple reasons. There's actually really interesting research, I'll see if I find the studies and link them below, that shows that both during pleasurable experiences and painful experiences, the same areas of your brain are activated, or very similar areas of your brain are activated. At the same time, some of the neurotransmitters and hormones that are released during both pain and pleasure are the same. So for example, when we seek out pleasure, we do that because it releases dopamine when we hit that success, and our bodies reward us with dopamine. Dopamine is also present when we experience pain. In a similar sense, endorphins are associated with pleasurable experiences, joy, euphoria, and endorphins are also released when you experience pain. The body is clever like that it wants to make the pain feel more bearable to you by actually releasing some neurotransmitters and hormones that are conducive to your state of being, essentially. And if this still doesn't resonate with you, although I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this before, let's even take going to the gym for a really tough workout. You feel really good afterwards because of the endorphins that are released, but the experience itself doesn't always feel good. And on the opposing end, if you have ever experienced intense pleasure, you might know, I definitely know, that if you have an overwhelming experience of pleasure that's like all the way up here, it can feel almost painful. It can be too intense, too overwhelming to handle. So you can see how pleasure and pain can be very interlinked. And then there's also something called, I believe it's called the pleasure-pain principle, or the pain-pleasure principle. It's a theory developed by Sigmund Freud that basically says or states that people make choices that either bring them closer to pleasure or further away from pain. So any choice you make, you either make because you think it will increase pleasure for you, or you make that choice because you think you can avoid pain through it. And this feels very accurate from my personal experiences. It feels very accurate for the experiences that I've seen in my clients and the choices that my clients make. And it might even be why you found this video. It might even be why you found my channel, because there's things in your life that you want to create, that you want to improve, where you're seeking out pleasure, you're seeking out the fulfillment of desires, and that's your motivation to be here. Or on the opposing end, maybe there are some things in your life that you're not entirely happy with, or that feel hurtful, or that feel painful, that you want to get away from, or that you want to avoid happening or experiencing again in the future. And even if things are good, we as humans tend to seek for them to be even better. Humans are also, I believe, the only animal that has a desire for self-actualization, which is so interesting and so powerful. And then if things are bad or looking to turn bad, we seek to get away from it, we seek to avoid it. Now, here's where it gets interesting and where the pursuit of pleasure and the chasing of desires can become destructive, just like the avoidance or the desire to avoid pain can become very destructive. Because here's the thing, if you are running from pain, if you are doing everything in your power to avoid pain, to not experience the pain you've experienced in the past ever again, you are also running from pleasure. You are also cutting yourself off from all the possibilities that exist out there for you. I have shared this many times before on Instagram, but I haven't yet created a video on this, so it feels really important to say, being open to all possibilities means that you will also need to be open to the possibility of the opposite of what you want to experience. You basically need to be able to hold both potentials. Let me explain to you why that is so important. It is so important because of how clever your subconscious mind is. Your subconscious is so clever that it wants to protect you from negative experiences that you've made, from negative emotions that you've had, from things that might have really jarred you at all costs. Now, this is great because it protects you, it helps you survive, especially if you've experienced something traumatic. This is something that's keeping you safe. That is excellent. The subconscious mind is doing its job. However, the issue is that this often leads to a self-fulfilling prophecy and leads you towards the exact experience that you want to avoid. I'll give you some very simple examples for this to put this into context, but this can show up in many different ways. And this is the work that I do with my clients, amongst other things. But a big part of the process that we do in my coaching program, Recreate Yourself, is to really dive into the subconscious, both in a mental way, both in an emotional way. I say both, it's multiple things. In a mental way, in an emotional way, and in a somatic way as well, where we dive into the subconscious in order to get to know it, in order to build a new relationship with it, to understand it really deeply, and to be able to reprogram it so it stops sabotaging you. Because if you don't do that, here's what happens. You start keeping yourself away from the things you want to experience because the desire to avoid pain is so much bigger. The desire for protection is so much bigger, and that often leads to a self-fulfilling prophecy where you tend to experience the exact things that you don't want because you're actually moving away from the things you desire because they feel too risky. So let's say you deeply fear failure. Maybe you've experienced failure in the past and it was really jarring because maybe it felt humiliating, or it felt like you wouldn't receive love, or it felt like it meant something about you and you felt like a bad person, or you felt unworthy, or whatever came up with that. You really fear failure and you fear the emotions that maybe come with that. Let's say shame. There's obviously a lot that can play into it, but let's take shame as an example. And you fear feeling that, you fear the pain, you fear the failure so much that your subconscious will protect you from that feeling, from that experience, by sabotaging you. So the consequence of that might be that you don't even try, even though you really want something. You will not go all in on what you desire. You will give up at the first sign of potential failure, and you will stop and you will quit, and you will never actually get to the thing that you want. You will never get to experience it. Or you may also then cling on to things that you don't really want, that aren't fully what you want, but that are close enough and feeling safe enough. So what's the consequence of that? You actually constantly experience failure because you're keeping yourself away from the success you want to experience. Because even the success you experience through having the things that aren't really fully what you want is short-lived, and that doesn't really feel fulfilling or good at all because it's not truly what you want. So you're actually consistently experiencing that failure that you're trying to protect yourself from. Let me know if this resonates at all, and if you have an example for your own life where a light bulb just switched on for you and you were like, oh my god, I am running from this particular feeling or this particular experience, and it's the exact experience that I constantly recreate. It's the exact pattern that I constantly have again. It's the exact emotion that I feel all the time, although it's what I want to run from. Let me know if there is something for you that comes up with this explanation, with this example that I just shared, because I would love to know how this shows up for you. And it's deep work. It's not easy. It's not easy to do on your own. This is why I have hired many coaches to support me through my own processes, because very often you can't see it yourself. Your subconscious is very smart. It doesn't want you to see what it's protecting you from. It doesn't want you to see how it works. That's why it's subconscious. It's by definition not conscious. So this is why I also do the work I do, so I can support you with this. So if this is something that you feel called to, feel free to check out the link in the description box below, and I would love to chat and see if I can support you on your journey. But the point is, the more you try to run from pain, the more it remains part of your experience because you're constantly on alert. It's similar with anxiety. If you've ever struggled with anxiety in the past, or maybe even in the present moment, anxiety works in a way where it tries to protect you by anticipating worst case scenarios. But at the end of the day, whilst it's trying to create safety through that for you, it creates the exact opposite, because you're constantly in a state of anxiety, which does not feel safe at all. It feels the opposite of safe. So if you are able to be okay with discomfort, with pain, with the potential opposite experience of what you actually desire, and I'm not saying seek it out, I'm not saying manifest it, I'm saying be okay with it. If you're able to do that, if you're able to fully surrender to that, which that's a whole different process. It's also one of the phases that I go through with my clients, because I like to work with surrender in a more somatic way, in a more body-based way. But if you're able to be okay with that and embrace that potential, embrace that possibility, and not just the one you desperately want, then you will be able to follow your desire, to pursue your desire, to embrace pleasure and follow pleasure without fear. Then the pain or the potential negative emotion or the potential fear will not have control over you. It will not have power over you. And fear and pain and all of these negative emotions are actually really great teachers as well. Obviously, I get that you don't want to seek them out. You don't want to experience them all the time. I don't either, right? I'm a big advocate for actually striving for pleasure, but it does include both. You need to be able to hold both potentials. And I can honestly say, with all the pain and the loss and the grief and the heartbreak I've experienced in my life, and there has been enough, I can honestly say it's been worth it. It's been worth it in the sense that I'd rather have that experience and have the experience of love and joy than to live a life where I don't experience pain, but I also don't experience love and joy. The only reason you experience heartbreak or grief or intense feelings of loss and any of the emotions that brings up, that experience brings up for you, the only reason that feels so intense and so painful is because that's how big the love was. That's how much you enjoyed it at some point. That's how much joy and love and pleasure it once gave you. That is duality, right? We need the experience of pain in order to know pleasure. We need the experience of fear in order to know love. We need the experience of stress in order to know peace. We need loss and lack and poverty in order to value abundance and gratitude. We all need it for context. And if we didn't have that duality, it would be really boring, let me tell you that. When you're in a state of intense pain, or you've just lost something, or you've just gone through heartbreak, you might be like, I don't want to ever experience that again. I would rather not experience the flip side. But you will get to the point where you're like, yeah, this was worth it because I did love really deeply. Because if you didn't, it would be really boring. Why else are we here? If not to experience life, all of life, the good and the bad. So here's my tip for you. Let your motivation be the pursuit of pleasure and desire, not the avoidance of pain. Let your desire lead you, not your pain. You can really handle anything. You really can. Because life, I truly believe life only gives you what you can handle. I truly deeply believe that. So follow your desire, embrace your desire, knowing that if the opposite came true, you would actually be okay. And you will be okay no matter what. So I hope this served you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, share the video, only if it feels aligned, no pressure, but it does help me. If you do want to work with me, information for my signature coaching program, Recreate Yourself, is below in the description box, and my DMs on Instagram are also always open if you have any questions. I love connecting with you there. I wish you a beautiful, beautiful day, and I'll see you in the next video.